Hello and welcome to the Multicultural AFL Football Show. Tonight we review the round number 1 and later introduce you to our guest George Demetriou, President of the Hawthorn Spartans Aussie Rules Club, and also preview the round number 2. I am Vanessa Gatica and I'm joined by my two co-panelists, Javier Sincang and Gabriel D'Angelo. Hello guys.
Hello Vanessa.
Hello Vanessa. Hello Javier.
Getting right down to business, in your opinion, what were the highs and lows of the first round? Some closest ones and some favorites that went down badly. Which teams impressed you the most, Gabriel?
What impressed me the most is probably not just a game, but also a particular player. I thought that's the Port Adelaide Melbourne game, even though there were other games that we can definitely talk about that was just, amazing. St Kilda finally winning that 1-point victory against Gold Coast, and the Western Bulldogs, how they beat Sydney, and also Brisbane Lions, how they had that fantastic victory against the reigning premiers, and also how badly Essendon did against GWS. But I'm going to pick Melbourne versus Port Adelaide because for two reasons. Melbourne, they should have won that game. They're going to feel extremely embarrassed about their performance against Port Adelaide. They were at home against Port Adelaide, which, with all due respect, are not as strong as Melbourne. They should not have won that game. So Melbourne have to understand that they're no longer the hunters. They're now the hunted. Teams are going to train that little bit harder just to beat them. It's no longer the case of, okay, we're going to play Melbourne, it should be easy. It's now, we have to beat Melbourne. We want to beat Melbourne. So Melbourne have to keep that in mind. And secondly, what impressed me the most was Jack Watts. Not for his performance, but what he said after the game when he was interviewed on Fox Footy. I thought it was sensational because you can see the raw emotion that he had. That a lot of times we forget that sports people and so forth are human beings. Yep. They have emotions. Yes. And so seeing him let out his emotions the way he did, I thought it was really, really great. And you can see the pressure just sort of evaporate off of him when he was talking about that. Because as we know, as we all know, he's had a lot of pressure because he was a #1 draft pick, and a lot of people saying that he's probably the worst #1 draft pick of all time and all this sort of stuff. And also the off-field issues that he had in regards to his trip to Oktoberfest, which we won't go into, but there was all these sorts of elements that went against him. So to see him so relieved and just so natural and raw, I thought that was fantastic.
Well, I agree with you, and definitely that was a highlight. And it wasn't the one team for me. It was like, because we all talk about footy, when we talk about footy, we say that it's not just a matter of skill, what you have. The teams that probably had more skill than the other team, they lost. It is that hunger, that passion to win, and the thing that you have in your mind. I think that sort of makes a difference too. And that's what we have seen in the first round. That's why it's like bit of like an upset round in few cases. Yeah. Even when I was tipping last time Port Adelaide and Brisbane Lions, I wasn't that confident, but I had that thing coming from the previous season. Port Melbourne coach had a few things gone wrong for him with the umpires' decisions and that Josh Jenkins' last kick over there as well. So he probably had that in mind, and you could see when he was saying those stuff back in the back year that 1 point or one wrong decision can change the game. So he had that in mind. And Brisbane Lions, we've seen last year, they performed so well. And West Coast Eagles probably came in complacent with all the skill and with all the big names they had. I'm not saying that one match going to make team look bad or good, but that sort of tells you the mind frame probably they were in. And that's probably the reason I can say that that's why Brisbane Lions were able to beat them. And that to me, that was a big highlight. And then Geelong, I think they had their forward woes last season or so. I think they were not able to get their combination right. But this year, they found that in the Gary Abel going forward, and with the Patrick Dangerfield in the central bounces doing more. And so they found that mojo. And that's probably got them over the Collingwood, which definitely were the favourites this time. So all in all, there were like few matches which sort of impressed just on me.
Yeah, I agree with you on Brisbane Lions. I think that's going to be one of many games that they're going to win at home. I think that they're going to start to build a nice little fortress at home this season. I really do believe that. I think it's their season to sort of impress. Yeah. Maybe not reach the finals, maybe in touching distance, but I definitely think they're going to be very good at home. Yeah,
and I believe St Kilda, they need to pick up their game, although they managed to win, but I wouldn't say convincing win against the Gold Coast Suns. And however, to Gold Coast Suns' credit, they came out again, what I said before, like they had that hunger, that passion. Well, they knew they can do it. It was very close. Let's be honest, St Kilda were extremely lucky that Gold Coast are not very good. Yeah. Because if St Kilda were playing against a decent side, if they were playing against Brisbane Lions, I think Brisbane would have won that game. Gold Coast could have and should have won that game. They had 2 opportunities to win in the last few minutes, and they blew it. Or at least draw it. Yeah, they could have at least had a draw. So St Kilda were very lucky to at least win that one.
Thank you, guys. And now we will take a short break and be right back with our special guest. Welcome back. With us this evening we have George Demetriou, President of the Hawthorn Spartans. Hi George, thank you for coming in to speak to us.
Thanks Vanessa, thanks for having me, it's a pleasure.
I believe you come from a big footy family and your brother Andrew is the former CEO of the AFL, but tell us a bit more about yourself.
Thanks Vanessa, no, that is correct. I'm one of 4 boys that grew up in the back of a fish shop in Pascoe South. My parents come both out from Cyprus in the 1950s with 1 suitcase and had a strong work ethic. All the boys played football for Pascoe Football Club. I got as far as Carlton under 19s, so but the whole family's a very passionate football family. We've all grew up barracking for Essendon. I'm an Essendon club member, an AFL member, so we've been always following that. I'm the team manager of the Hawthorn Spartans, which is part of the Hawthorn Amateur Football Club. I'm also the treasurer of the team. I help with the recruiting and I also arrange sponsorships for the team. The club's been going 8 seasons. We've had 4 premierships, played in 7 grand finals. I'm a practicing accountant. I run my own accounting practice. I've been doing that for the last 40 years. And I was also a director of a not-for-profit organisation from Did Care for 30 years, past president for 2 and 15 years treasurer. But as far as the football is concerned, when I finished there on that board, I wanted to help out managing this football team.
You have an amazing trajectory.
Thank you.
Gabriel, do you want to ask a question?
Yeah, on the Hawthorn Spartans, how did the club come together and what is your formula for such a successful bag of 4 premierships in 8 years?
Well, it all started back, a few of the players started just to kick on a Sunday morning, and from 2 to 5 players, and it became 35 players, and the players said, why don't we start our own football team? So we had to look around for a club to take us on, and we were fortunate the Hawthorn Amateur Football Club took us on, and they've been fantastic throughout our whole journey. They took us on, and it's been a successful partnership. We've been very fortunate. We've got a great team of players, coaching staff, the trainers, the officials, volunteers, and most importantly also we've got a great bunch of sponsors that have kept the club afloat. Without sponsors you can't run a club. It's an amateur football club, but we've been fortunate there. But I think that the success is the fact is we've got a great culture. The players are learning, they're developing, they're very dedicated, passionate and very competitive, and they just want to win every match. But and they just love being together, pre-season, socially, match day, and they couldn't wait for the pre-season to start, which we start in November.
Oh, that's very impressive, George. Starting from kick to kick with friends, and then coming to where you are now, and then getting onto the multicultural team of footballers, and better still to have ex-AFL players, especially on Greek heritage, to come and support the club. How do you recruit your players, and what is sort of the biggest hurdle in doing that?
the recruiting of players has been happening through word of mouth. Other players bring other family members. People hear how our club's going. We were lucky enough to recruit 2 ex-AFL players in ex-Carlton Premiership player Ange Christou and ex-Hawthorn champion Ange Leckers. We're always on the lookout for new players to recruit, so we're always looking for that. I think the other thing we also found that we're always looking out to improve, get better, and we found that always looking out for new sponsors. But the greatest challenge we've got is that the competition's getting harder. We've been going up divisions. We've been able to do that. We've been recruiting players, and the players have just all gelled in with the other players, and they've actually been training well pre-season, and it's been good.
Thank you, George, and the best of luck with the Hawthorn Spartans this year.
Thanks very much, Vanessa. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Thank you.
What a great AFL Rules success story. But don't go anywhere, as we will be back after the break with our preview of the second round, so stick around. Welcome back to the second part of the show as we preview the second round of AFL footy. 4 big games, guys, starting with tonight's clash between the Tigers and Collingwood at the MCG. That is going to be a huge. Friday night footy at the SCG, where the Swans host the Adelaide Crows. Which team is going to bounce back after the disasters last week, Gabriel?
I think, well, we'll start off with the Sydney and Adelaide game. I think Sydney should be fine. I really do. I don't think that they're going to be troubled by Adelaide. I don't really think that Adelaide are going to cause them too much trouble. In fact, I don't really see Adelaide doing a lot this year. I know that we've only had the first game and things can happen, but I just don't see them as sharp and as strong as they used to be. And Sydney at home, with their home crowd and Buddy Franklin firing, I mean, they're just going to be too good. I think Sydney should win that one quite convincingly. For the game between Richmond and Collingwood, I'm just really looking forward to it. I'm actually really glad to see that both teams are so similar now, because in the past we've had so many years where Collingwood has dominated and Richmond haven't been very good, and then Richmond rebuilt and then Collingwood were sort of not so great. So it's good that both teams are sort of locked and level, because both teams hate each other. And it's good to see it at the MCG. It's going to be full, it's going to be packed, and it's going to be a really good game. I'm really interested to see how Richmond remedy Alex Rance's absence, because he's going to be he's going to be sorely missed from the defensive line. I think he's probably the best defender in the league. So having him gone and seeing who's going to look after Mason Cox when he goes up forward, that's going to be really interesting. It's going to be probably the main key as to who's going to win and who's going to lose. They say winning form is good form, and on that basis I'm going to say Richmond, but you know, this one really can go either way. I mean, really can, but I'm just going to say Richmond on that one, and for the other game, Sydney easily. Well, I agree with him as far as Richmond is concerned, but to me, I think the both teams are quite equally balanced at the moment. I believe Rand's effect would there be, and they'll be feeling that effect of him not being there, but with Lynch in the team, and then now they've got Revolt at the front, I believe they might be able to score more as compared to Collingwood. And Collingwood, with them, they've got too many stars. Jeremy Hoy, I can start the list, and they're all superstars. Not that Richmond doesn't have too many stars as well. So it's going to be like on a big stage, what do the stars do? What can they do? That's what's going to determine the outcome of that game. We've seen GWS, they have so many players, but still they haven't been able to do that good. But maybe it was because of the very good players they had, and they couldn't gel together or something. I don't know. With Collingwood losing that, I believe that was a bit of a shock to me, as I said previously. So I'm not sure what's going to happen on that day, but I believe whoever can sort of hold on to their nerves and do good, I believe they will come on the top. And that's really a game to look forward to this year. Yeah. And on the other hand,
Sydney should come out on the top. That's an easy one for me. That was a dismal show by Adelaide. In Adelaide, we know Hawks what can do to any team, but still they should have come up with a better plan. At least after, if it was things were not going well for them in the first quarter or second quarter, there should have been a quarter where they played a good footy aside. But we didn't see that. As you mentioned, that they seemed like they've lost a touch or so. Having said that, they've still got guns, Rory Salone, everyone. But another important one, Tom Doherty, I think he's got the ACL as well, so he'll be missed in the back line too. I believe that was a good prospect for Adelaide. So I believe it's as far as Sydney Swans and Adelaide is concerned. I believe Sydney Swans going to be easy win.
Okay, Sydney for you. Okay, right. Saturday at the Cattery, Geelong are at home to Melbourne, who had a poor game last week. And on Sunday in Perth, the Eagles played the GWS Giants. And I would say the Eagles do not want another embarrassment. Your thoughts, Javier?
Well, I'll come to the Cattery one later, but with regards to West Coast Eagles, they really sort of shocked me with the kind of play they had against Brisbane Lions.
Yes.
And I believe they would like to save themselves an embarrassment. But having said that, this time we've seen especially GWS coach. He said that he's got 1 down, 22 to go. So they looks like they onto something, and you can see that hunger, you can see that passion, because every year they've been so close up at the top to the Premiership, to the Grand Final, and I believe this might be their year with few of the guns gone to the other clubs. I think they've probably been able to form such a cohesive unit, which maybe because of the too many stars they were not able to form it before. But this year, I think that might be their year. So I wouldn't be surprised that if GWS beats Gold Coast, West Coast in Perth, but we have to give advantage to them. I believe they will bounce back. To me, it will be West Coast Eagles. And on the other hand, I think Geelong's going to be too good for Melbourne. If Melbourne can't handle that sort of pressure at MCG, I don't think they'll be able to handle that pressure when they go and play in Geelong. And Geelong, as I said before, they looks like they found their mojo, they found their rhythm. And unless Melbourne can really improve a lot in a week or so, I don't see them winning in that game.
Yeah, I mean, look, Geelong, they're extremely hard to beat. And we forget that last season, Melbourne were actually quite close to beating the Cats in Geelong twice. But in terms of that game, Melbourne, they have got to improve. They have got to do better from last week's performance. And they were really, really woeful. Like, we expect much better from Melbourne. Like, there is no more excuses now. There's no more of this sort of, they're developing and all that sort of stuff. No. This season they have to go, that extra step better than what they did last season. So all eyes are on them. They have to do better. They have to come at least close to beating Geelong. I know it sounds easier than it sounds, than it looks. But Geelong at home should win. But Melbourne, they really have to lift in that game. And the GWS game against West Coast, I also, I agree with you. I mean, I said that last week, most of what I said. I mean, you disagreed with me last week, but now you're agreeing with me. But GWS, I believe that they're going to beat West Coast in Perth as well. GWS have a fantastic young team that have gelled together for quite some time. Quite a few #1 draft picks and good draft picks that are starting to get a lot of experience, a lot of games under the belt. I think that one of the main reasons as to why they sort of lost quite a few finals games, especially at the MCG where they're not comfortable, is probably because of stage fright. Don't forget, a lot of these are actually kids. They're a lot. They're quite young, but now they've played together. They've got experience under their belt. And I said this last week, and I'll say it. I think GWS could even go all the way to the grand final. I know it's very early to predict, but I really believe that the way they're playing is fantastic. The game against Essendon, they were not at 100% strength, and they still dismantled Essendon. And Essendon had not all the best players, but most of the best players. And GWS were nowhere near, and they still absolutely dismantled them. So I think GWS, they've got a very good chance of beating West Coast in Perth.
Well, I believe that I can't overrule GWC in any sense, but I just wanted to see that passionate side. I can see that this year. I think they are onto something.
Okay.
Very quickly, gentlemen, who will win between Essendon and St Kilda at Marvel Stadium?
I believe it's Essendon for me. I think they will bounce back this week.
Yeah, Essendon, easy.
Port Adelaide and Carlton from Adelaide?
Oh, I believe Carlton might give them a little bit of run for their money, but I believe Port Adelaide will come out on top.
Yep, totally agree with what you said.
Kangaroos and Brisbane at the Marvel Stadium?
Well, Brisbane is my favourite this year, so I'm just going to tip them.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going for an upset, Brisbane.
Hawks versus Bulldogs from the MCG?
As much as I want Bulldogs to win, I believe Hawks might be a bit too strong for them.
Yeah, Hawthorn should win that one.
Gold Coast and Fremantle from Metricon Stadium?
I believe Gold Coast, they're going to win something, so I think that might be it, and I'm just going to tip for Gold Coast.
I'll say Fremantle. They're improving. They're going to win this game.
I would like to applaud Tyler Harris, a super athlete. Is not withdrawing or backing down, but appreciates the public's support in her condemnation of social media trolls. After receiving the backing of the AFL world last Wednesday night, Carlton's star forward in the AFLW admitted she was overwhelmed by the support and also by the entire AFL community and many high-profile people that came on board in her defense. So, on Sunday, Adelaide met Carlton in the AFLW Grand Final. Which team is going to win?
I believe Carlton should win because they've seen the bottom and then they've improved a lot this year. However, beating Adelaide in Adelaide, it's going to be huge. So I think it's going to be Adelaide though.
Adelaide for me. I mean, the way they totally dismantled Geelong, where Geelong were goalless for most of the game. Adelaide, they've got some very good players like Aaron Phillips. So for me, Adelaide should win that one. But hopefully Carlton can make a good game. But I think Adelaide should win.
Thank you, guys. That's all we have time for this week. Don't forget to watch us on Aurora TV Foxtel at 11:30 a.m. Saturday. Also listen to the NEMBC radio podcast on select national multicultural radio stations, 3ZZZ FM and online at the NEMBC's AFL Footy website. Stay tuned next week for more multicultural AFL Footy news. I am Vanessa Gatica.
And I'm Harbi Singh.
I'm Gabriel D'Angelo.
Thank you for watching.